Hi guys, welcome back to the channel today. In this video we're going to be drafting the pattern for this really beautiful top right here. It's a simple corset top with an armhole and a basque waistline in front. So we're going to take this part as the center of this top, and then we'll take this side as the shoulder. So I'm going to start taking all my measurements from this shoulder area here. So from the shoulder, I came down to 10 inches, which is my bust point, and then 13 inches, my under bust point, and then 15 inches here, which is my waistline, and then 19 inches, which is the top length. So I'm just going to extend these lines across. So right now I'm actually trying to draft your basic bodies. So if you already know how to do that, just go ahead and draft yours. But if you don't, just follow this. So like I said, this is the bust line, this is the under bust, waistline, and then we have the top length. So these are our vertical measurements. So on the bust line here, we're going to go up by 2 inches to get our chest line. So I also mark that line across and label it the chest line. So when you're through with this, these are all the vertical measurements. Now I'm going to come up to the shoulder line here, and I'm going to divide my shoulder measurement by 2, and I'll make a mark here. So when you've divided your shoulder measurement by 2, you're going to connect it to meet the chest line. So when you're through with this, you're going to come down from the shoulder by 1 inch, just like you see me doing like this. And you're just going to connect this line just somehow into the neckline. This is our shoulder slope. So now from the middle of this top, I'm going to mark my neckline. So I went in by 3 inches, and I just made a rough neckline from that 3 inches point, because this is not the neckline we're going to be using. So when you're through just getting a regular neckline, but make sure that you use at least 3 inches. Come down to this shoulder here. From the shoulder slope, go down to the chest line, divide the measurement you have there by 2, and then go in from that point by ½ inch. Then when you've done that, come to the chest line and divide your bust measurement by 4 and mark it. So you're going to now join the 3 points together that you just got. I do this all the time on the channel, so I am assuming that a lot of you already understand this now. So I'm using my marker to trace these 2 parts out, because they're going to be part of my actual pattern. So when you're through with that, the next thing we're going to do is to come down to this bust line here, and you're going to divide your nipple to nipple measurement by 2 and mark it on the bust line, on the under bust line, on the waistline, and also on the last line, which is the top length. So you're just going to connect a line across all of them like this with a straight line. Now to get our dart, I'm going to come down by 1 inch from the bust line. So you're going to make that mark here. After doing that, we're going to come down to this waistline here, and I'm going to go in by ½ inch on both sides of this line. So when you've done that, just look at how I'm connecting these points now to meet that point I just did on the under bust, and then take it down to the top length. So we'll do it on the both side. So you guys already follow my patterns here will know that whenever we are doing anything relating to corset, that we'll have a circle from the bust point here, this bust line, this point here. So we're going to actually go ahead and do that right now. And what you will use is the measurement from this bust point down to this under bust point. So measure from here to here, and you use that as the radius for your circle. For mine, it's always 3 inches. So I'm going to use 3 inches to mark a circle around. Just look at what I'm doing right now. So when you're through getting your circle, we are now going to go ahead and start working on the corset itself. So on this chest line here, I'm going to come down by 1 inch, 1 inch here, and then I'll go in by ½ inch. So I'm just going to connect this little line across. This is going to be the separation between my 2 cups. So when you're through with that, I forgot to do this earlier, you're going to divide your shoulder measurement by 2 here and then just connect it with a straight line to meet the bust point here. So this is like a shoulder dart. So when you're through with that, what you do is come down to this under bust line here and go out by 1/2 inch from your dart. 1/2 inch from your dart. So you do that and just make that line go all the way to the end of the stop. Can you see what I just did? 1/2 inch from your dart leg and then go all the way to the end. So if you're through with that, connect a point from here down to meet this point here where the dart stopped. Can you see the top of the dart? Just connect it to the top of the dart with a curve like this. So now extend this point to meet the bust point here. So when you're through with that, you're going to come to the top of this circle here and we're going to work on this shoulder dart here. And we're going to take the measurement we have in between this plate here. And what I have here is 1.5 inches. So I'll give 1 inch to the part going towards the neckline and 1/2 inch to the part going towards the side. So here I'll mark 1 inch and then here I'll mark 1/2 inch, right? So I'm just going to use my curved rule to just connect these two into the bust point. Just look at how I'm doing this right now. So when you're through with that, another thing we always do here is to go out from these lines by 1/4 inch on both sides. And then we're just going to use our curved rule to just connect these new points into the line that was already going like this. And we'll cancel out this first one and we'll do the same thing for the other side. Like I always say, this will just make your corset cup to just sit perfectly on your chest. So when you've gotten rid of those two old lines, now I'm going to connect this point to meet this point on the other bust. If you don't understand what I'm saying, look at what I'm doing. Connect this point here down to meet this point on the under bust. And then this top area, you connect this point as well to meet this new line we got on top. Now one part of our cup is ready. Now for this other cup, this is where the major issue with this tutorial is, because we're going to be trying to get an armhole. So make sure you pay attention to this from here. So from this point here, I'm going out by 1/2 inch. Can you see? And I'm just going to connect this with my curved rule. Go out by 1/2 inch and connect it with your curved rule. So from this new point here, we're just going to make a straight line to meet this point that divided our shoulder into two. Can you see? Can you see what I'm doing? Just connect this point to meet this. So now you can see that we have a little bit of a shoulder and an armhole. So yeah, that's almost it for this other part of the cup. The next thing we're going to do is from this line we have here, this armhole line, I'm going to go in by 1/2 inch. Can you see? Then I'll connect this point from here through to the armhole. Just look at what I'm connecting. So from the under bust to meet that point and then to the armhole. Can you see? So this is the second part of our cup. So that's basically it for drafting this cup. Next, on the chest line, now we're going to start adding our measurement. I'm going to mark my bust measurement divided by 4. Then take in this dart that we took away from here, replace it back, and today I'm using 1.5 inch as general stitching allowance, so I just added that. Now I'll come down to this waistline here, divide my waist measurement by 4 and mark it, replace the dart. What I have here is 1.5 inch, replace it, and then add back the general 1.5 inch stitching allowance. And then on the top length as well, I'll do the same thing. My measurement there is 32 divided by 4, and then I'll add my dart intake and then the general 1.5 inch stitching allowance. Now I'll connect these sides with these last 3 points that I just got. So now I'll just connect this armhole here to just meet this side like this, and that's basically all for this pattern. So I'll just use my marker to make these parts more bold so that you guys know where we are cutting out. So this is basically all. Here you see that you have a shoulder and an armhole, so you can basically add whatever sleeve you want to add to this corset. I'm just going to go ahead and cut it out now. I'm sure you're wondering why I have not cut out the Basque effects in front yet. I'm going to actually cut that out when I am cutting it on this actual fabric. So that's why I didn't cut that effect out right now on the pattern. So just look at what I'm cutting out so that you don't make a mistake when you're cutting out your pieces. So these are my front pieces, and this is basically all for the front. So now for the back, I've already gone ahead to draft out a basic bodice because I don't want to be redoing that again. So now for my dart, I'm going to, from this top length, mark my 3.5 inch, which is my half of my nipple to nipple measurement, and I'll mark it on all the lines, and then I'm going to mark a straight line across to join the points together. So now on the waistline, we're going to go in by 1/2 inch on both sides, just like we did in front. But this time around, I'm going to connect this point to meet this top here, this point here on the chest line. So this is the difference between the dart we have in front and the dart we have at the back. So I'm connecting these to meet the chest line, and then I will take the other part to meet the end of the top. So now I'm also going to come down to this shoulder and do the same thing I did in front, divide it by 2 here, and then make that line across, because the shoulder for both the front and the back has to be exactly the same. So now when you're through with that, I'm just going to go ahead and connect a neckline. So this one is just totally up to you what you want your neckline to be. So I'm just going to make a, but it has to be from this half points that we have here, because this is where our shoulder in front started from. I don't know if you understand. So I'm going to actually mark like in round neck now from this point down to meet somewhere around this, under the chest line, something like that. So if you want a V neckline, you can just go ahead and just draw out your V neckline from that zip point. But for mine, I'm just doing a round neckline from here. So you can see here that the back has a zipper allowance because I'm going to be putting a zipper at the back. And another thing I wanted to explain to you guys is that this top has a Basque effect in front. So the front is going to go down, but the back is going to stop at the waistline. So we're not going to make use of the last line for this back. So it's going to stop at the waistline. So I just marked that line across now. But if you don't want that Basque effect, you want both the front and the back to be straight, just go ahead and use the full measurement. I don't know if you get this. Now when you're through with that, I'm just replacing all my body measurements. So I just marked my bust point divided by 4 and added 1.5 inch stitching allowance. And on this waistline here, I'll do same, mark my waist measurement, replace the dart, and then add the general 1.5 inch stitching allowance. So I'll just join these two together. So can you see? Now, just like I did in front, I'll just connect this properly to meet the side. So this is basically all for the back pattern. This is just all for the back pattern. So like I said before, if you don't want that Basque effect in front, just go ahead and finish up your pattern with your measurements so that it's a full top. So for this particular one that we are following, it's a Basque effect, so that's why this is shorter at the back. So I'm just going ahead right now to cut everything out. So this is my piece, and you can see this is the zipper allowance here, so it's going to go in like this. So but for this zipper area, I'm going to go in by 1/2 inch so that it sits perfectly when I fix my zipper, and I'm just going to connect this into the neckline and just cut it away. So that's basically all for the back pattern. So let's just label this the back. So this is the front pieces. These are the front pieces that we cut out before. So that is basically all for this pattern drafting. This is the back, and then these are the front. We'll be cutting out that Basque effect when I'm cutting it out on the actual fabric. So I went ahead to use this pattern to cut out on my actual fabric, and this is what we have. So we're going to be sewing this together in my next video. So if you're yet to subscribe, hit on the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss that video.